So yesterday I posted an interview with Kezia Noble, who is like a game guru. She's like, she teaches game to guys, right? I posted an interview with her and oh man, the comments section, holy shit, right? Everybody had like a freak out, right? Okay, like the first thing was that everybody accused me of being contradictory because the video right before I posted the interview with Kezia was a video called Never Take Advice from a Woman in Your Life, right? So, you know, they said, oh, well, you said in this video, never take advice from a woman, and here you are bringing this thought, because a lot of people just disparaged Kezia just because they didn't like her looks or what have you, or just because she happened to be a woman, right? You're bringing on this thought and you expect us to take her advice. You're contradicting yourself. Ah! You know, I mean, so that right off the bat taught me or told me or showed me that a lot of people who were throwing shit my way hadn't actually bothered to watch my videos, for crying out loud. What I said was, don't take the advice of the women close to you, the women in your life. Because those women, because they love you and care for you, they're willing to say practically anything to make you happy, including giving you bad advice, whereas a guy won't. Or, more to the point, a woman who is not in your life, a woman who is indifferent to you, such as Kezia Noble, will give you the straight dope. She'll tell you what's what, right? So there was no contradiction, but of course, you know, common sector spurred out. But that wasn't the issue that bugged me, or not bugged me. Let me explain. See, Kezia and I see eye to eye on one key issue, which is that you don't need to be particularly handsome or particularly rich to get the hottest girl at wherever you happen to be, okay? You don't. You need to have game, tight game. Sometimes these women are just really hard to land. Sure, like, you know, sometimes it's really hard to get that marlin or whatever, but, you know, you can do it if you know what you're doing, right? If you know game and you know it well and you practice it well, right? Kezia and I believe that because in both of ours experience, right, independent one of the other, of course, we've seen it. We've seen the handsome rich guy have zero game and not get the girl that he wanted, and we've seen the ugly broke-ass guy get the woman of every guy's dream, right? Because he's got game. And we've seen that. And we've seen that evolution of guys who didn't have any game and who learned it and became good with girls, irrespective of their looks, right? But there were these guys in the comments section, and it's really interesting because they were virulent about this. They said that only good looks and money will get you girls, right? And for me, running this channel and producing this content and giving you this content, it was incredibly frustrating because, see, I made the effort to bring on Kezia, and I interviewed her, and I edited it, and it took a long time to create that post to put it up there. And, you know, the whole point of it is, you know, here's water. You've been crossing a desert, and you're tired and exhausted, and here's the water, right? This woman can, you know, help you in your problem. And the guys are like, no, it's impossible. It's impossible. Game doesn't work. You know, I mean, all evidence to the contrary. Game doesn't work. You need money. You need looks. And if you don't have money and looks, then you're never going to have a woman and you're going to die a virgin. End of story. That's what a lot of the comments were like. It's incredibly frustrating. Okay? When you are, you know, the old saying, you know, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? You're showing a guy how he can, lose his virginity in many cases. He can stop being an involuntary celibate, or he can improve his social life, his romantic life. You're showing him the tools. You're showing them like on a silver platter right in front of him, and he refuses them. And he just like shakes his head and just like scoffs and yells at you and flings insults at you and calls you a simp and all the rest of it. And the thing is, see, this is an important lesson because you're going to find a lot of guys like that in your life, okay? I mean, not a majority, thank goodness. It'll be a vocal minority, you know? I mean, of the total population, it's maybe 1 or 2 percentage points, right? But they're the most vocal. They're the loudest. And they're going to say no. no matter what you present to them. Okay? Now, you got to pay attention to these guys. You got to pay attention to them and you got to avoid them. Okay? Because they're going to bring you down. They're always going to say no, that something is not possible. It might not be the same guy saying this. You know, it might be a guy is a buzzkill insofar as women is concerned, but a cheerleader, and a great cheerleader insofar as, say, business is concerned, or vice versa. You see what I'm saying? See, but you have to identify these buzzkills. You have to identify these guys who refuse to see the possibility of advancement in a given situation. These guys that you bring them to the water well, to the oasis in the middle of the desert, and they refuse to drink. You got to understand that nothing you say to them is going to make them change their minds. You got to understand that. I learned this lesson the hard way years ago. Because years ago I was involved in different projects that were very unique and very novel, and I had to bang my head against a lot of people who were just naysayers. And I learned by that constant head banging that, you know something, it's just not worth it. See, these guys who just don't want to believe something, and you're showing them proof positive, and they refuse to believe it, they refuse to accept it, there's nothing you can do. You just gotta avoid them, you know? Arguing with them, for you, it's just going to be frustrating. It's going to be an energy suck. You're not going to get anywhere. You know, you're really not. You know, and the thing is, see, they're going to start flinging shit at you and disparaging you because, of course, they don't have logical arguments to refute what you're telling them, the truth that you're showing them. They don't have any logical arguments, so they're going to shit on you personally, ad hominem attacks. They're going to call you, like they called me in the comment section, they're going to call you a simp or a Coach Blue Pill or a cock or this, that, the other, all kinds of shit, right? Now, of course, I'm old enough that I could give a shit, you know? I mean, I've been the recipient of so many insults over the decades, right? That at this point in my life, fuck it, you could call me anything, you know, and I could care less, right? But when you're younger, you care about such things. When you're younger, in your 20s, in your 30s even, you care. Yeah, and don't tell me you don't, you do. If somebody says that you're a fucking simp or a cuck or a weakling or this, that, the other, anything negative, right? You're gonna be like, no, I'm not, and you're gonna be a little defensive, and you might even overcompensate to prove that you're not that thing, that negative thing, right? Yeah, I know, because I've been there, for crying out loud. I was a 20-something, 30-something insecure guy who, you know, if you called me chicken, I'd be like, no, I'm not chicken. I can play in the freeway just like anybody. You just watch me. Watch, I'm going to go and play in the freeway, you know, and you'll see that I'm not a chicken. Yeah, of course, okay? I know, okay? Don't tell me otherwise, all right? But now, as a 50-year-old fart, I could give a shit if somebody tells me this, but the point I'm trying to get to is that, see, these guys, you got to be careful. You got to be real fucking careful, okay? And you got to recognize that they do not want to see something because their entire personality or their entire worldview depends on not seeing something. You see what I mean? Like, take the comment section in the Kezia Noble situation, right? A lot of these guys were shitting all over Kezia, right? And they were belittling her looks and what have you, and commenting on her gestures and whatever. But they weren't listening to what she was actually saying, and what she was saying was actually sensible, right? Because these guys just wanted to shit on her and confirm their worldview. Because by confirming their worldview, irrespective of the evidence, they feel that they are not wasting their lives or that they have not failed. Because that's the thing. See, these guys who are shitting all over Kezia, right, and saying that only looks and money matter to get a woman, which is patently not true. You see it all the time. Ugly guys with hot women, rich, handsome guys with just the dregs, for crying out loud, right? Well, see, these guys need to hold on to these beliefs because that way it explains to themselves why they failed with women. You see what I mean? See, by holding on to these myths that are not true, they can explain away their own failures. Okay? Now, so, I, of course, was not going to argue with him for two reasons. Number one, I know it's pointless, and number two, I'm not going to fucking get into a grudge match with members of my own fucking audience. That's absurd, right? So, I just let it slide, but it got me thinking. It got me thinking, and it got me to realize that this defeatist attitude of these guys is just very dangerous. You cannot allow it to pollute your psyche. You can't, because it's very easy for these naysayers, these defeatists, to pollute your head, okay? To put the seeds of doubt, and because it's easy. It's easy. That's the thing. That's what's so seductive about their position. It's easy to say, I don't really need to improve myself and learn this game shit because all women are whores and they only go for rich, attractive guys. And since I'm not rich and I'm not attractive, fuck it. I don't have to do anything. You see how easy and attractive that position is? You see how easy it is to just just give up. That's the thing. That's the thing that drives me a little bit nuts about these defeatists, that they encourage other people to give up. Now, I don't mind if somebody gives up. If they decide to give up, well, fine. But what I do object to is when somebody who has given up starts encouraging others to give up too. That bothers me, okay? Because I'm not making a fucking channel for a bunch of fucking defeatists. I recognize that I'm going to have a certain small minority of people, a very vocal but small minority of people who are going to be defeatists, who are going to be like, I can't get women, so there must be all whores, and only rich, handsome guys get them, and since I'm not, I'm just going to give up. I can put up with that because, you got to take the bitter with the better, you know what I'm saying? But I cannot stand them inculcating and fomenting that attitude with the rest of my audience. So don't allow it to happen to you. Now, if it has happened to you, if you do have this defeatist mentality, first of all, the road to improvement is to recognize your problem. Think of the following situation. Suppose I say something, anyway, it doesn't matter, and you instantly and automatically and from an emotional place hit me with the negative. I say, for example, that looks and money do not matter. What matters is game in order to get the hottest women. And you instantly jump up and emotionally react to what I'm saying, right? This is key because your emotional reaction is the signal that you are coming out of an irrational place with your argument. And you have to re-examine and reevaluate your argument because it's not rational. If you are leaping up in anger to argue with somebody, now they said something like I just did. I said, game is what you need to get a hot woman. You don't need good looks and money. And you, to this very rational and calm articulation of a position, you emotionally leap up and start either insulting me or just arguing that I'm totally wrong and that I'm an idiot and a fool and what have you. And you have to stop and ask yourself, why am I arguing from emotion? Why am I trying to fool myself? See, because that's the key issue. See, when you are arguing out of emotion, when you are like knee-jerk going after somebody and just popping up angrily and emotionally arguing against them, more often than not, it's your emotions are trying to hide a truth from yourself. And more often than not, the truth that your emotions, that your subconscious is trying to hide from your conscious mind is the very truth that has been articulated in front of you. You see what I'm saying? The greater the emotional reaction to something that is being said to you, the more likely that it is that very thing that your subconscious is trying to protect you from, to make you blind to. You see what I'm saying? Because that truth that's being articulated, that's the thing. You wouldn't have an emotional reaction if it weren't important. If I say to you something trivially important, like, I don't know, in the traffic lights, the red light means stop. You don't have an emotional reaction to that, right? And suppose, just for the sake of argument, I say to you, when you see a red light and a traffic light, it means go. what are you going to do? You're going to argue with me, but it's not going to be from a place of emotion, right? You're going to say, Coach, what the hell are you talking about? When you see a red light, that means stop. And suppose, just for the sake of argument of this conversation, I keep on arguing, no, it's red. You know, when you see red, it means go. You're going to be like, Coach, I'm sorry, but you're just wrong, and you're not going to get hot under the collar, right? Because it's something that is not important to you, right? You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm trying to get at? But when you have an emotional reaction to something that is being rationally said, rationally and calmly said, then you know that you're fooling yourself somehow. And you got to guard against it. And you got to look at yourself real fucking hard. It could be that you yourself are that horse that is being led to water but refuses to drink. The hardest thing you can ever do is self-examine yourself, okay? Because each of us is a master at fooling ourselves, because who knows us better? See what I'm saying?